Hi everyone. So this brings us to week 4 of Integrate Mind, Body, and Spirit. And today we're talking about spirit. So spirit is probably my favorite kind of topic. And I think that the reason why this is that it's still considered in our Western mindset as unproven. It's kind of on the fringes of what is considered to be okay, I guess. With the mind, there's been lots of studies done about the mind and lots of studies done about the body, and it's all in this realm of we can prove, our Western science can prove what this all means. With spirit, it is so subjective, and there's been a lot of harm that's also been done in religions that have I would say, diluted the magic of spirit. Because to me, and what I really love to encourage to people is that spirit is something that exists within. I talk about this a bit in the Gene Keys, where when we look outside of ourselves for something, we're still not fully connecting to what's in here. So our connection to spirit can be anything we want it to be. The connection to spirit brings hope, it brings trust, it brings faith. It's something that is a belief that is beyond the normal, and it is an experience. A yoga teacher once said to me, he said, it was a yogi from India, he was about 80 years old, and I remember him saying, he was like, don't believe me. Don't believe me that this is true and this works. Go and try it yourself and see what your experience is like. Try it, experience it. And this is how I see our connection to spirit. So my connection to spirit is probably most likely different than yours. And this is because we are all very unique beings having this very unique human experience. So spirit to me actually really encompasses our imagination, magic, nature, any form of mythology, gods, goddesses, Mother Earth. It can be anything that brings us a sense of hope and comfort that maybe to some people doesn't make any sense. And that's why it's so incredible, because it is so unique towards you. So what I find is to be incredibly important when we talk about spirit is that it really encompasses our childlike sense. So if you think back to when you were a kid and you imagine all of the things you might have believed, maybe you believed in the tooth fairy, maybe you believed in Santa Claus, maybe you believed in fairies, maybe you believed in dragons, maybe you had an imaginary friend that you talked to. Maybe you had really incredible magical dreams. So I really believe that this state of us as a child, when we still have access to this magic that has not yet been kind of pushed or taught out of us, this is that essence of spirit. And we really want to, as we develop the practice of spirit, we want to see what lights us up in that same way as it did when we were a kid. And I don't know, I think that sort of stuff lit me up as a kid because There was no explanation. No one said, oh, well, it's this way because. It just felt truth to me, right? Like I used to play with fairies and believe in fairies. I still do believe in fairies, right? They're very much around me all of the time. There's this idea that we have to prove everything and that what children experience isn't real. And I want to challenge that belief to say, well, what if what children are what if what children experience and see is actually the truth, and what adults then mold and push out of them is the illusion? So, as a little practice, I want to encourage you to just start noticing what sparks that childlike quality in you. What sparks that curiosity, that wonder? What makes you kind of light up with I don't know, magic, with the idea of magic? I mean, it could be reading Harry Potter books and loving that Harry Potter world. It could be making art. It could be walking through the forest and noticing how the light glimmers off of leaves or spider webs. One of the things that I notice that really happens in our culture is that when something is explainable through science, it is no longer magical. So if you think of a spider's web, right, and how they create this home that where they also hunt and get their food, you think of this beautiful spider web that they create in their body and then weave, and they seem to like almost defy the laws of gravity to do so. Excuse me. If you think about how they begin to after they, let me gather my thoughts again. So you think about this spider's web, and in the morning, you know how you see them sometimes and there is like dew on them, and then the sunlight shines down onto these beautiful spider webs with this morning dew resting on it. That is spirit to me. That is one of the most magical things to see in the world. That spider created that web, and then the water stayed on that web overnight, and then the sun, as it rises, starts to shine and reflect through the water, making this gorgeous spider web stand out. That's magic. That's spirit. And just because we can explain through science how the spider makes its web and why the dew stays on the web, and how the sun rises and the refractal of light moving through the water, just because we can explain that through science of some kind, does not take its magic away. And that, I think, is what is really missing in this connection to spirit, is that just because it's explicable in some ways does not mean that it is less magical, does not mean that spider and that web are not the most, that's not like Mother Earth at her finest, right? So I encourage you and I invite you to just start noticing magical things, or just start noticing what lights you up, or just start noticing when it's like you've got a really big struggle running through your head and you just want someone to talk to you. What if you just kind of went, hey, God, Mother Earth, Spirit, I'm really struggling. What if you turned it over to something else? What if there's something else beyond what is explainable by science? start asking yourself that question, what if? And what lights me up? And what sparks that young curiosity in my mind that I haven't felt since I was a child? Have fun with it. Spirit is fun. It's light. It is, it's here to remind us of who we actually are.